Oh, so you mean to tell me Gojo Satoru, the strongest sorcerer of the modern day, actually did something? Neat! What's up guys, I'm Rapunzel, and here we are to do a breakdown and review to chapter 250 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as the decisive battle in the... Oh no, what am I kidding? I was about to try to add some flavor to it. Let me just read it as amazing and as legendary as this title is. The decisive battle in the uninhabited demon-infested Shinjuku, part 22 of 80 years. And yes, I said year. But let's... there's... This chapter, I think this is one of the few chapters that it's so strange. It simultaneously has so much fighting, so much combat, so much just physical conflict that it feels like nothing but that should be taken from this chapter. Yet at the same time, this chapter has so many implications, so much said, so much that happens that it has drastic ramifications on everything else, such as cross-verse battles, placement of characters in the universe, statements and story paths for other characters, implications on narrative. This chapter has it all. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me, I summon you to this plane of reality. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Yuta Akotsu. Oh, he's quite mighty, isn't he? Quite powerful. Dare I say a bit overwhelming. Because this domain's really, really broken. Like broken. I'm not saying it's the craziest thing out there, but I'm also not saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, the thing about this domain is that it's not really just this domain. Like, this domain is arguably... here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It depends on what he can imbue into it and what he has in his kit. But honestly, you could make a pretty solid argument that outside of the open barriered ones, which are cheating, which are just flat out cheating, and even then, in contest with some of the open barriered ones, this domain could pretty easily be argued as the best, because it's literally just whatever domain Yuta wants it to be. Plus more. Like, that's the thing. It can be Unlimited Void plus 1. It can be Malevolent Shrine plus 1. It can be whatever Angel's technique, whatever Angel's domain was going to be plus 1, as we see it literally be. So, like, this domain has so many applications. But of course, why? Why am I saying that? Well, let us see what the narrator has to bless us with at the start of chapter 250. Akotsu Yuta's all-encompassing equivocal love allows him to choose any one of his copy techniques to imbue the barrier with as the domain's sure hit effect. His remaining copied cursed techniques are scattered randomly amongst the katanas within his domain. Only Akotsu can utilize them, but not even he knows which katana contains what technique until he grasps it for the first time. While each katana can only be used once, their number is infinite. So, as the narrator says, the special grades domain revealed. How does it work? Even Gay is like, hold on, I know what y'all came here for. Let me run it down for you real quick. But here's the thing. There are multiple different things that are about this. One, I already mentioned it, the customizability of this. Of course, there are questions to how certain sure hits would work. Like, hypothetically, if he were to have used sky manipulation instead of Angel's technique, would it just be Thin Icebreaker? And if so, how broken is that? How would the Thin Icebreaker work? Because typically Thin Icebreaker is an attack you use by forcing motion on something in order to shatter it. When it just appears on you, how does that Thin Icebreaker work? If it is Thin Icebreaker, what is the sure hit of that? Of course, that's a more simple one, but another one that gets introduced in this very chapter, Charles's Clairvoyance, or his Future Sight. How does that work as a sure hit? Of course, there's no reason to ever do that one. But, like, what do it do, though? Does it have special effects? Can the sure hit become lethal? Or by doing that, can you switch up the properties of the domain to make it better for domain battles? Because remember, the reason Akari Kenji's domain, Idle Death Gamble, is one of the fastest, if not flat out, I think it's confirmed to be the fastest domain ever, in terms of just like startup speed, sure hit effect, all that. It's because it's a non-lethal sure hit. It's a sure hit. It stuffs your brain with the information so you can play the game. But the reason it's so speedy is because of the fact that it's not lethal. Meaning that Akari doesn't necessarily have to worry about too many complicated steps. He just opens it, and the domain activation is so fast that it even transcends the activation of domains that Mahito did in Shibuya, which, if you remember, is a copy-paste of the domain 2.2 second duration that Gojo did. So, in terms of domain speed, I wonder if that has an effect. If Yuta, by cycling through effects, if they would be non-lethal, can do something like that. Or if he can literally auto-adjust even non-lethal curse techniques to lethal. Like, notably, almost every other curse technique he has shown here, it has lethal sure hit effects. Like, let's just take it one by one. Sky Manipulation, already mentioned it, then Icebreaker. Jushikigami technique. It basically would most likely be Horizon of the Captivating Skanda. Like, presumably, these things would just appear on you and take chunks out of your flesh. For, let's see what else he shows in this very chapter specifically. Heck, I'll skip all the way to the end to the big bad moment. Bro could just make a barriered Malevolent Shrine. Sukuna threatened Gojo with that, but like, he could just make that. But once again, we know how that sure effect hit would work. Here's the thing about Angel's sure hit effect. We just may not see it. It's unfortunate, but like, considering the scale of Jacob's Ladder, I wonder how that works on a sure hit front. Like, does the light just spawn on top of you? But regardless, it is working. It's why Yuta goes for it. And of course, the shutdown techniques, which is very, very good. And also, vaporizes evil spirits, also a very, very nice perk. And then, what am I missing? ... Oh, Cursed Speech. Cursed Speech is also an interesting thing. I don't know how that would work, because once again, Cursed Speech is kind of something you have to choose. Like, what? Would the user be able to choose the words they're going to say and then simply skip the sound process? Like, would they be able to think or verbalize detonate, and then suddenly, instead of the cursed energy infused sounding to travel to the ear of their opponent, would their opponent just instantly... I don't know. I don't know how Cursed Speech as a sure hit would work. Maybe it'd be like a hybrid between a lethal sure hit yet a non-lethal sure hit. Would it even be Cursed Speech anymore if it transmits straight from thought? I don't know. That's the weird thing about it. But essentially, Yuta's domain can be any domain. But I think that's not necessarily good enough. And I know that sounds crazy, right? But like, pencil. It can literally be any domain. The thing that sends this domain over the edge into being broken, in a good way. I do like that Yuta's broken. Don't get me wrong. When I say Yuta's broken, I mean that as wonderful, happy, let me do my little dancey dance that Yuta's broken. But the reason I think that this domain is legit broken is because he still gets access to the rest of his curse techniques. Admittedly, while only in katana form, that's still really, really good. Realize that you trap pretty much anyone else in this domain expansion. You trap anyone else who's literally not the king of curses, and or maybe Gojo Satoru himself, who can counter domain. Say you were to counter domain, right? Say you were to try and go bar for bar with Yuta, just like Sukuna and Gojo were going bar for bar with each other. Say they both canceled out. They were in equal refinement, equal curse energy amount, all that. It's likely that Yuta Kosu still has access to this. What was one of the biggest issues for both Gojo and Sukuna while inside of their respective domain clashes? That they could still use their innate techniques, but their lethal sure hit effects are cooked. That's a little bit embarrassing. They didn't have the same variety. They had to resort back to their old-fashioned ways. But with Yuta Kotsu, presumably in a domain clash, if he's starting to clash with you, he still has access to infinite amounts of swords. Because your domain is just canceling out his sure hit effect, not the infinite swords that are there. And notably, we don't know how this cycle works, as he says, or the narrator says, allows him to choose any one of his copied curse techniques to imbue into the barrier. So maybe it's a one-time thing. He has to pick, and then that's it. He would have to close the domain and open it again on some domain refresh type B. But still, very, very broken. Insanely broken. And in any context, any other person fighting Yuta would most likely immediately lose a domain. If they're not an evil spirit, make Sky Manipulation. Or Cursed Speech. or cleave and dismantle, make any of them the sure hit, and they are immediately losing. Heaven forbid they try to simple domain and they stand there and start to move to fight back, and then you just smack them in the face with it. Then like, Yuji's domain broken. I do like that it's broken though. Very, very good stuff. However, the interesting thing here is that true Shikigami technique actually gets a, not even just a, like, this is more than a mention. This is like, this is actually kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy because realize these are still little mini bat Shikigami. These are like, that's my impression of a bat. I'm so sorry, but like that, these tiny things actually got a showcase. Notably, I was still definitely in the camp hoping we would get to see Yuta drop like a blue whale size Shikigami on top of Sukuna's head, but these mini ones coming out like this and cooking as they do, very, very impressive. But I do love, if there's one thing I love about Yuta, and especially in this chapter, is that he is so about it. Bro doesn't even, like, he doesn't even announce the techniques anymore. He's just like, you know what time it is. It's jumping time. And he just immediately starts sending things out. And we see the Rika Shikigami like, here, it's jumping time. Let us jump. And they go to immediately start jumping. And we see, I love this little detail that Yuji is like, I think he's literally like mid-hop. He's like forced to like, whoa. Because even though he's protected from the sure hit of Yuta's domain, he's not protected from general hits, meaning him and Yuta, like, friendly fire is still on, essentially. Meaning that these two basically have to sync perfectly in order to not mess with each other. Because presumably, all Itadori's punches do the soul-shaking thing. And if you were to start doing that to Yuta, even though he's a single-souled organism, by knocking his soul loose, you'd probably hinder him a little bit. So I do like that there's that caution that both need to dance around and play around with while they're fighting with each other. It isn't just all sunshine and rainbows, basically. They do need to work tactically with each other, especially when both of them are fighting in fundamentally different ways. Like, Yuta's able to get in close, but you can definitely tell, especially how he takes this chapter, he likes to play a little deception, a little bit of a longer to mid-range. Meanwhile, Yuji Itadori, at least at this point, is all about that close range. He's really trying to, he's trying to get that meat all over Sukuna. And you can see how he's got the hands up, he's ready. But Sukuna, once again, just holding Hollow Wicker Basket. I've been hearing mixed things. Do you need to hold Hollow Wicker Basket? I want to say so, because why, if you don't have to, why would Sukuna be doing it? I don't know. The only other Hollow Wicker Basket user we've seen is Reggie. But I forget, I think he did unclasp his hands in the elevator, so maybe? I don't know. I'm trying to think. But Sukuna does specifically hold Hollow Wicker Basket this entire time. Maybe it's just a maintenance thing. Maybe because of Angel's technique, it's like consistently, slowly but surely chipping away at Hollow Wicker Basket. So Sukuna needs to keep holding on, even though he could hypothetically still move. Maybe that's why he doesn't resort to simple domain, because it'd basically be the same thing, except he needs to take on the squat stance. But even then, I've heard mixed things about that. Maybe you don't even have to take on the squat. Well, no, we've seen it. We've seen that people can fight in simple domain without taking the squat stance. So very interesting that Gojo resorted to simple domain. Meanwhile, Sukuna, he most likely have access to all four of his arms, but it's crazy to say this. Once again, maybe it's just the Sukuna slopper in me, but it's entirely possible that there's even the slightest chance that bro's still messing around a little bit, playing with Hollow Wicker Basket, even though he saw you can fight just fine and with simple domain. And presumably, here's the thing, I'm not sure if it was the sure hit effect that ate away at Yuki's simple domain, or just the fact that the domain itself was open barriered. Interesting. I don't know. But with that being the case, we do get to see that. Now I'm back to thinking on this. How would that work? Yeah, he should be able to. Yeah, he should be able to use all four hands with simple domain after he strikes the pose initially. Unless it does work like that, where the breaking down of the domain is just an innate part of simple domain. Because notably, we don't see other simple domain users go up against domain users. Despite that being the literal built purpose for simple domain, like, it almost never works. Because the characters who should know it don't. In the cases of like Nanami going up against Dagger's domain expansion. And then characters that do not. at least I don't encounter a symbol domain. Like, that's the thing. No one really encounters a symbol domain user with a domain, despite there being quite a decent chunk of symbol domain users and also quite a decent chunk of domain users. It's a weird oversight. Not necessarily oversight, but it's a weird little detail when I think about it, that so few of them ever overlap that I'm not exactly sure if the tearing effect just goes to show the potency of both Sukuna and Kinjaku's domain on a barrierless front or just on a general domain expansion front. Interesting. But of course, sorry, I went on a whole tangent talking about Sukuna and hand placement and stuff like that, just because I think it's funny. Because once again, you literally throughout this entire extensive chapter, we never see Sukuna unclasped with lower hands. He's that scared. For good reason. But we see that Yuji Todori, he times it perfectly as the Shikigami go to rotate and spin. Sukuna is forced to, as Yuji hits him with that. And notably, I can't tell, I think he I think he straight hit him with that. Hit him for the third time. Hit him with that little double tap right there. Which I do like. I like that even though Sukuna, I think he does understand the risk of Yuji, he's still like, he's reacting more instinctually than cognitively, right? Like he's following more primary instincts to like block, defend, even though he knows very well at this point that every single time he blocks and defends, oh shoot, my hand, it's fighting back against me. Like I think that's just a testament to how it's a way where experience can kind of get in the way. Like I've heard, how do I put this? I've heard people say that like once you get into muscle memory. Once you get into muscle memory for certain things, it's so second nature that you start to do it automatically without even thinking of the ramifications, even if you know something else is bad. And you know what? I tell other people, but heck, I've even experienced that before, where it's like, I need to think. I do not have blank today. I do not need to take the natural drive. But it's such instinctual muscle memory, despite me knowing that there's no reason for me to go down that road at that time and that day. I still instinctively do it just because that's how my brain has been programmed. But of course, Sukuna, he's been fighting for much more than I've been going to work. And thusly, his immediate instinct, in spite of understanding the threat that Yuji Todori poses to him, is just to block. Which is impressive. It means it kind of like low-key shows that Itadori Yuji at least has enough raw power in combination with his cursed energy to actually like hit Sukuna up real quick, make him jiggle a little bit. But of course, we see that Sukuna, I mentioned this effect before and I'll mention it again. I love the little detail of the lines shifting ever slightly, just that little tweak, that little twist right there. I do love that. I love how Gege does it. Once again, I'm assuming it's just copy layer, lower opacity, shift layer slightly. I'm assuming it's that. Maybe it's 2 layers. Maybe he does a upper layer and then a lower layer. Shift, lower, upper, change the opacity. Maybe. But still, I do like the detail there. And I love how Sukuna's all 2 of his eyes are like, what you doing there, Buggo? But of course, she may not have a single word this entire chapter, but she said, I'm going to get my licks in. Rika, the queen of curses, comes down from the heavens. Once again, I'm going to talk about it, and I think I might as well talk about it now, considering Rika does get moments later on in this chapter that I do appreciate, but I think she's here. I might as well mention it now. She's still unmanifested. Completely unmanifested. Completely unmanifested. Why would she be unmanifested? It seems a tad strange, a tad funky. Why would she be unmanifested? When, seemingly enough, all conditions for manifestation have been met. And by all conditions, I literally just mean the ring is on. Like the ring is just on. So why is she unmanifested still? I don't know. Now, admittedly, I don't see it in this chapter, but I've been hearing mixed things. I hear some people say that it's stated that, oh, since he's able to use everything unlimited now, he doesn't actually need Rika for the 5-minute full power state, so he's kind of just bing chilling. He's perfectly fine as things are right now, and thus he doesn't need fully manifested Rika. I'm okay with that idea. It's why a lot of people think this domain can kind of just go on forever as long as Yuta can maintain it. with his own curse energy amount, meaning that it's very, very likely that bro just generally has access to a limited copy, and he's kind of kept Rika on the sidelines in spite of putting the ring on because, well, there's no need to. But I do kind of like the idea. I've heard this idea around. It's not mine, so I'll give credit. I forget who is the person who I saw it on. But I saw someone say the main reason why Rika's unmanifested is because Yuta's looking for a bootleg, a workaround way to re-up everything when he's actually low on juice. Because if you remember, when Yuta Okotsu ran out of sauce, when he was fighting Ryu Ishigori and Uro and Karushi and Druve and like the 6 other people or 7 other people he slaughtered that day, bro was... Oh, God, here we go, it's RCT. Taking a lot out of me. Wow, Rika, give me everything. And then he got his RCT back. Like, literally, it's noted by both. I think it's specifically Ryu. I think Ryu and Uro both know, like, what the heck? Like, is this kid, like, his curse energy reserves are welling back up. So, like, this happens instantaneously. So maybe Rika's being saved as unmanifested. So once she fully manifests, once that timer, that connection is given, then she's able to come in and start cooking at full manifestation. But of course, in a similar vein to Sukuna's incarnation to his hand body, the moment Yuta puts on that ring properly, slides it off the middle finger and puts it to the ring finger, then that 5-minute timer starts, and then they're generally running on a clock. So maybe that's it. I like the idea that Yuta has kept her unmanifested because once he manifests her, that 5-minute timer is starting and that one-time refresh for the day is gone. I really like that idea. And we see that there's some interesting things here. So, Hollow Wicker Basket can continue maintenance when a user moves, which somewhat makes sense. Like, I can respect that one. But the thing that catches me a bit off guard here, if he doesn't need the hands class, why would he? And what is that belly mouth doing? I don't know. It's very, very interesting to me that he consistently needs to hold the Hollow Wicker Basket pose. Because once again, I've heard so many people say that you don't actually need to hold it, but he goes on to hold it throughout the entire chapter. And maybe he's just suppressing himself still, but like, it's suppressing to a ludicrous degree, bro. Like you wouldn't be doing this in any perish or not perish situation, right? But looks like Ryo and Sukuna may be taking that difference. Because presumably, unless Rika got like massively stronger, unmanifested Rika isn't even Ryu level. And of course, Ryu level is a high bar to clear, but still, it's just not the case. So I really do wonder, like how effective, well, I guess see in this chapter, the thing is she proves to be relatively effective, which makes me wonder how effective fully manifested Rika is going to be. Because there's 2 paths to take here, right? Either unmanifested Rika has gotten so much stronger that she drastically outmatches her fully manifested self that we saw in Sendai, which was stated to not even be able to take Ryu's punches when she was fully manifested. Like, fully manifested Rika could not eat Ryu punches. When she tried to eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, she got served a 15-course meal for brunch and could not handle them. So when unmanifested Rika got hit once by a super fatigue, basically on the verge of knocking out Ryu, she completely fell apart. So it's interesting that this Rika seems to be this well off against Sukuna, right? Who should be way stronger than Ryu. Unless Ryu is way stronger than we thought. And then again, I've heard mixed things, right? Because some people are just saying Rika's gotten stronger, right? Like, everyone got better, including Rika. I'm iffy on that. But, like, it's just that, like, just as there's the evidence to support it is just her performing better than you would think she did in Sendai, or based off what she did in Sendai. There's no real counter evidence to her not getting stronger, or no evidence for her not getting stronger, really. There's none. Like, it would just be okay. Like, she just got more powerful. But, like, Ryu powerful? Yeah. Though admittedly, Rika's bulk in comparison to Ryu's is still a question, still a genuine question, because she's not mentioned in the very, well, hey, at least to me it's famous, but I don't know, I've seen a decent chunk of the fandom get all up in a tizzy based what's stated on my board. But of course, Rika swings, but Sukuna dodges. So this is the interesting thing I want to tackle. You can move using Hollow Wicker Basket. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I now want to see other characters use it. Like, would Kashimo basically just be reduced to a Vegito type character where he just has to use his legs? Same thing with Reggie. Like, if you're trying to self-defend while running around in Hollow Wicker Basket, how does that look? What is the scale of that? But of course, Rika gets dodged. But this is a little bit interesting. I don't exactly know how. Maybe just because. Maybe Friendly Fire is off? I don't know. Because somehow Yuji gets in and minks Sukuna twice while the Shinigami. Not the Shinigami. Aizen is not here. This was not part of Aizen's plan. Or was it? Nah, but Aizen's not here. The Shikigami. Maybe Itadori just punches through their barrier. But very interestingly, while they were circling horizontally here, where they were like going around like this, here it seems that they suddenly go like this in an arcing sense and a cross sense and tear up Sukuna's back when he goes to dodge Rika, which is very, very interesting. And also, where does Yuji go here? Like, notably, it's not like Sukuna knocks him away or anything. Sukuna gets the soul shake and then Rika immediately comes down. So like, Sukuna's fine. He's in the shot. Where's Yuji, though? Did he just dash away? But regardless, the weird thing is that the Shikigami, despite not being seen anywhere here, suddenly now appear and slice open Sukuna's back. And he realizes a technique applying an invulnerable barrier to a Shikigami's path. So, Drew's technique is actually really, really good. But it's just trash on... But I guess Drew was just booting me. Very, very interesting. And notably, the thing is, this never comes up again. But this may fall under the fact that every single katana is a one-time use, meaning that you can't do everything multiple times, which is admittedly a little bit whack. The moment you get comfortable with one katana, it's going to break. And I wonder if Yuta instinctively knows what multiple actions is, or like how to compile multiple actions into one decisive attack. Kind of like essentially sort of a monkey's paw, genie's wish kind of thing, where you need to be as specific as possible in order to get the most out of that without directly harming yourself. I wonder if it's the same thing for Yuta, where he's basically just min-maxed and like knows, okay, I know if I use this katana in this way, it won't immediately despawn. And as long as I transition between these two moves and call it part of a style, it also won't immediately fall out. So that's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I wonder how the depths of that work, in particular for this, just based on the fact that the Drew Shigami technique actually seems very, very potent. But of course, we do get to see the mention of the word invulnerable again, which is a funny callback to Gojo's Infinity and his invulnerability. But the Sukuna, it's still crazy to me that Sukuna's actually able to take damage from these things. That's pretty impressive on their part, I will admit. The fact that Sukuna is actually fully under their jurisdiction of a rule. A barrier inside a barrier, essentially. Of course, a soft barrier versus a hard barrier. Yuta has the hard barrier while the Shikigami are the soft barrier. But still, stacking barriers inside of barriers is very, very impressive, Mr. Akotsu. And speaking of Mr. Akotsu, we see the man. As a wise man once told me, men will do anything for a fit pick. And this is about one of the most metal fit picks one can have. And notably, here's the thing. It's weird because I swear he doesn't have a katana in hand here. I swear Broski doesn't. But what that does imply is that he's using sky manipulation of his own free will, which is interesting. Which does kind of lead into the idea that he can have one innate technique, one that he directly controls, and then he can pick up a katana to stack those techniques. Because we see here, there's no katana here, there's no katana here. This is, I believe, yeah, this is his other hand right here. This is his first hand. Nothing in his hands, but not only is he flying upside down in a very similar vein to Satoru Gojo when he freshly awakened and launched off a red, but also he pulls at the sky and actually manages to tug it apart, which is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Once again, no blade here. And let me see. Yeah, the last blade he used was the Shikigami blade. So maybe, here's the thing. Maybe He grabbed another sword, cracked it over his knee, and immediately started using sky manipulation before the sword could realize that it got robbed. Because if not, I just don't. I don't know how to explain this pose. The bro hit the back. The bro hit a front backflip from the highest piece of concrete. And was like, "Allow me to show you why I alone am the new honored one." Like, I don't know. This pose goes crazy. Though we see him, he yanks at the sky. Very, very interesting tactic. But of course, right now, when Spatial Slash is a non-option, you might as well abuse sky manipulation as much as you can. And we see, while Yuta's reaction, at least full facial-wise, is more locked in and focused, I do like how Sukuna just like, yeah, look at these kids. Yeah, Vader. Have you ever had a McRib? I'm sorry. I tried to slip into Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin voice, but I can't do that one on command. I can't do Kingpin's voice either. There's so many characters who, if I were just able to acquire their voice, it'd be wonderful. But with it being the case, we see that Sukuna begins doing that dangerous thing, that thing that we can never let Sukuna do, because the moment he starts to do it, trouble starts a brewing. He starts thinking, and he says, "After my fight with Gojo Satoru, not only am I unable to expand my domain, but the effects of my reverse curse technique remain sluggish. At this point, my total, why can I not read in this point? My total cursed energy likely matches the cursed brat. On top of that, maintaining Hollow Wicker Basket renders me unable to use the world bisecting dismantle after extending the target of my technique. And then, so I love it when things get complex and weird and stupid and somewhat contradictory. So let's talk about this. Number one, I do like the top thing. So number one, I do like this. I was already kind of in the camp that Gojo was actually very, very necessary in order to get the casting crew to this point, but I do like that Gege through Sukuna is hard laying down the table. This isn't just me going off things that have been loosely hinted at or loosely can be assumed or anything like that. No. This is Gege through Sukuna laying the gauntlet down on the table. Gojo Satoru is necessary for Sukuna to be in a state where this option is remotely viable. Remember what I mentioned at the start of the chapter review. Yuta's domain is this, Yuta's domain is that. It's so broken, it's crazy, it's next level, it's stupid, it's cracked, it's insane, it can be any domain ever. Remember, that's all under the condition that his opponent does not have an open barrier domain. Especially an open barrier domain like Malevolent Shrine from Sukuna. If bro had his domain, which he does not have at the moment thanks to Satoru Gojo, it'd be over. It'd be over. The instant they try to trap him in something that could actually do lethal damage, like Yuta's domain could do right now, cooked. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner immediately. Scrumdiddlyumptious. It smells delicious. That's how cooked that man would be. Because, well, not just that man. The whole entire verse would be cooked if Sukuna had his domain. They would literally all be put in the Malevolent Kitchen and it'd be over. But, dude, as he says here, after my fight with Satoru Gojo, not only am I unable to expand my domain. So the domain, that win con, that easy win con, that win con that wipes the entire rest of the cast. Realize, I love Maki. Really, really do. Maki meat munch until the day I go. But, I'll be real with you, Maki's not walking through Malevolent Shrine. Hakari Kenji, he'll walk through Malevolent Shrine. Bro's RCT is crazy. But the moment them 4 minutes and 11 seconds are up, unless he somehow escapes Malevolent Shrine's range, or his domain happens so fast and he gets the jackpot so quickly that bro immediately gets the next 4 minutes and 11 seconds, Hakari's cooked too. Same with Yuta. Once that 5-minute time limit runs out after his domain gets shattered, if he even has that time limit, and then just get cooked alive without RCT or with... Well, he probably would be able to strive for a bit with RCT, but I still think he'd fall. Same thing with Yuji. So the domain being off the table is massive, gargantuan, insane, and necessary for Gojo Satoru. Next thing, the effects of reverse curse technique remain sluggish. This is still a little bit crazy, but presumably this one comes more so to the brain damage that Sukuna underwent. And it really does go to show how complicated the brain is, especially not just in real life, but in the way of JJK, where just 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds, 9 seconds of exposure to that unlimited Zaza, that is what immediately ruined Sukuna, essentially, which is something, once again, that the casting crew would not have if it wasn't for Gojo Satoru. So I do like, number one, Gojo getting his due respect, getting his flowers, all that. Number two, the confirmation that, at least from Sukuna's perspective, him and Yuta have equal amounts of cursed energy. I've seen people note that Yuji may be the cursed brat here, and I can kind of see it, but the only reason I don't think so is mainly because the cursed brat has typically been used to refer to Yuta, not Yuji. Like, he's been asking for the cursed brat will be my final meal, the curse this, the curse that, the curse this, the cursed brat. So, like, I do think, I want to say, I guess it means that Gojo ran Sukuna out of maybe being generous 2/3 of his tank. Because we know that Yuta says he has likely more than twice. But how much more than twice really is the question. But regardless of any of that, he has massively nerfed cursed energy. Now, here's the thing. This does lead to a very specific question. A question that there's been a bunch of debate about in general. Does cursed energy amount actually matter? Like, at all? Like does it have any sort of value or impact on a character's strength? Because there are two camps you can walk down, two camps you can take it. If cursed energy amount matters, and the more you have, the stronger you are, then Yuta should be stronger than Gojo. Right? Because he has more cursed energy. That's not how that works, though. It goes by output. So, legally speaking, being at half Yuta's cursed energy, or to the point where he has the same amount of cursed energy as Yuta, doesn't really mean anything. What really matters is the fact that his output is still garbage. That's the main thing that matters, at least in my opinion. I've been seeing a lot of people assume that this Sukuna is now as weak as a 10-finger Sukuna, or around the level of a 15-finger Sukuna, or anything. But personally, I'm in the camp that it's just pretty much unquantifiable to determine how powerful he is relative to his other finger states, because notably all the other finger states should be the same. At least from my understanding of it, especially now, at best, the fingers hold different techniques. At worst, based on the addition of the mummy, and the mummy being confirmed to just be cursed energy, it's very likely bro doesn't actually get anything from the fingers. At least not stats-wise. Like, I know that sounds crazy, because that would mean 1 finger equals 20 finger. There's no way I could actually be saying that. But, like, yeah, in terms of stats, probably. I think the fingers just provide him more cursed energy. Maybe, like, techniques. More fuel, essentially. Because there's no real other evidence to support that they do have drastic differences. Because think about it. If each finger was even like a linear increase in like overall stats, Sukuna should be way more powerful than he is. Like, to the point where he should just one-shot everything. But he clearly isn't. And his physicals don't seem to get massive increases across finger variations or anything like that. So I don't think that the fingers really do much for him other than provide him more fuel to go on. So in terms of cursed energy amount, I would say he's at like 10 finger Sukuna level. Or maybe, since it's more than less, maybe he's at like 7 or 8 finger Sukuna level in terms of raw cursed energy amount. Do I think this Sukuna is any more powerful than those variations of Sukuna? Not necessarily. If they still have full output, fresh domain, and all stuff like that, then there's a very high likelihood that, they'd win, especially considering his RCT output is trash. But at least it's good to get a solid quantification. This is what I do appreciate. I'm glad that Ngege at least is gently hinting at us the state that Sukuna's been left in, considering his like physical body and status has kind of been an enigma ever since Bro incarnated again. Like, it's just been weird. I will admit. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not even gonna pretend to deny it. He's he's been kind of funny in terms of like how powerful is he, what has he lost, what is left over, what isn't left over. So knowing his RCT is still shot, his cursed energy output may or may not be shot soon enough, and his cursed energy amounts are starting to get shot. Good stuff, nice quantifications. However, we do get to see the most interesting statement here. On top of that, maintaining Hollow Wicker Basket renders me unable to use the World Dissecting Dismantle after extending the target of my technique. This is weird. And this is weird. I'm not going to deny it or fight back or anything. No, this is just straight up weird. And the reason you may be wondering, Pencilman, why is this straight up weird? Remember the first time he used World Slash? He had, what? Oh yeah, one mouth and 2 arms. What is currently available for Sukuna, while the lower 2 arms and maybe the lower mouth is restricted to chanting to maintain Hollow Worker Basket up against this endless onslaught of Angel's technique. Yeah, he's still left with a mouth and 2 hands. So, and notably, remember, he was missing a hand when he performed World Slash against Gojo in the in-between space between 236 and 235. Like he was still missing a hand, and bro didn't heal until he literally incarnated much later. So, no. I said he's missing a hand, and he didn't heal until he incarnated. But like, the math's not mathing here. But with that being the case, while missing a hand, super fatigued, super damaged, 1 mouth, 1 hand, he was able to perform the World Slash, the Spatial Slash. But now that he has 2 hands and another spare mouth, he can't do it. That's interesting. The only way I could excuse this without it being like this directly contradicts the narrative that was established so far, since we've seen him use it with less limbs than before. The one assumption I can make is that the main reason he can't do it is because it takes a direct funnel of all of his cursed energy. Meaning all the cursed energy that's being rerouted to fight off Angel's technique with Hollow Wicker Basket is consistently being used to reinforce the endless onslaught of... Does that make sense though? Does that make sense? Because if he's funneling all the energy in Hollow Wicker Basket to fight off the endless assault of Jacob's Ladder, couldn't he still just slash? Like, he still just has the second mouth and the 2 extra arms. I don't know. It does feel weird, but that's my only excuse, right? A lot of Chris energy is going straight into that, and he needs to focus on that as well. And while he may have 2 faces, 2 sets of arms, 2 twin dragons, but while he may have all that, he may just have 1 brain, so maybe it's still a little bit overcomplicated for him. Extending, because of course would be like what? If we take Kashimo's statement at face value and assume that he also experienced the slash that cuts the world, then this would be his 3rd time doing it. Of course, he whipped it out perfectly on the first try, but still, maybe there's a little bit of extra sauce that goes with it. But of course, we get one of my favorite images. This chapter is full of amazing imagery for me, but one of my favorite images, just Rika, something about Rika just straight lifting up Yuji Itadori and pitching him like a fastball is so unbelievably hilarious to me. And I think what adds dimension to it is that Yuji is not smiling. The man doesn't have a lick of care in his face. He's like, as he just gets launched, which is crazy. But I do love it. He does get launched in by Rika. This is the reason, right? As crazy as it is, as next level as it is, the reason I love it so much is because it's something that I would have never expected, yet makes perfect sense within the narrative. Of course, Rika and Yuji would be good for jumping people, because Rika can make up for any lacking strength and speed through the raw power of her tosses, and Yuji Itadori can keep attacking the soul. But seeing it put off theory and being established in the main manga as a tactic that they're using, straight throwing Itadori Yuji, I like it a lot. And of course, we see that Sukuna, once again, he pays attention. He's like, he notices Itadori Yuji out of the corner of his eye, but a certain someone rises from the shadows. A certain Do I smell sky manipulation? I swear. I swear. Like, Yuta got himself one good technique. Bro said, I got space manipulation. I don't care if I got limitless or not. I got space manipulation. And bro has not ceased spamming it since. Bro learned one move and was like, this is the one. This is the one right here. I need this. I need this right now. And he's used it ever since. And it's interesting because it seems like this is what the katanas mostly are. Like, what, this is our fourth? No. I think it may be our third. It may be our third utilization of sky manipulation. But for one-time uses, these katanas are going crazy. I ain't gonna lie to you, Bucko. I ain't gonna lie to you. But with that being the case, we see that he draws down the sky to guide his attack for sky manipulation, reels back with the swing, and I love this panel right here. Such wonderful work here. I know I'm gonna sound extra glazalicious here, but let me talk about why I love it. Admittedly, Yuji Itadori's underdrawn face is actually really funny here, but the main reason I love it, I mentioned this before and I'll mention it again, it comes down to the fact that everything that Sukuna is being used, and the extra body parts are not just being used for I was gonna say set dressing, but body dressing, as they are commonly used for. One of the things that I love, and it's very hard to do, admittedly, especially as a guy who does character design himself, it's always somewhat difficult to incorporate every aspect of a character design into something, especially if you're writing something for a battle manga or any series that has any sort of conflict in it. It's the utilization of pretty much every aspect of a character. I love how Sukuna's forearm physique here is being used. Every single limb that, like, is opposable. Like, I mean, his feet, I guess, are technically opposable. Like, you can pick up things with your feet, but, like, obviously, he needs to stand on those things. He's quite literally standing on business right now. But I love how every arm is utilized. The left arm being used to perfectly block Yuji Itadori's drop kick. The right arm being used to catch the blade of Yuta Okotsu. And the lower two arms being used to perfectly clasp together and maintain hollow wicker basket, while the lower stomach grunts and the upper mouth frowns. Good stuff. Very, very good stuff. And so much happening for such a compact panel. Like, this is only about half a page, yet you see all the different katanas that Gege had to draw here. Notably, I don't even think these katanas, none of these katanas are like, they aren't like copy-paste or anything like that. These are all uniquely drawn katanas on top of the multi-stage concrete background with the multiple levels in the concrete, to the motion that's portrayed from Yuta's sword swing here, to Yuji's drop kick and the force of the collision here, and the motion of Sukuna's arms being thrown up. Like, it's just really, really good stuff. It's really, really good stuff, and it's really, really hard to do. At least in my opinion. Notably, I know there are demons out there who always make fantastic use of character design, but sometimes it feels like characters, especially characters with extra limbs, don't always get to use the extra limbs perfectly. But by essentially reducing Sukuna down to a man with two limbs, considering two lower limbs always have to be doing something, in the hollow wicker basket clasking the hollow wicker basket maintenance by clasping together. This is really, really good. This is really, really nice. I love how this comes across, and I love how buttery it looks, and I love how Sukuna is just so annoyed with both of them. What another detail I do like here, at least it's a little bit hard to tell, but it looks like Sukuna's just looking at Yuta here. He doesn't even take Yuji into account. And then once the soul shake happens again, which is once again portrayed by that slight shift, that slight blur on him, he goes, ugh, there's this. So he's forced to acknowledge Yuji Itadori, who locks in very, very quickly. Like, bro goes from, like, and this is impressive too. Bro went from a drop kick where he was like this, kicking with like foot here, to, I guess, transforming the impact to turning off Sukuna's arm, leaning in, diving in, slipping down, and gripping Sukuna's whole arm and arm barring him in mid-air. Yuji Itadori is just different with it, dog. And we can literally see that Yuji's new ability is an evolution of a basic ability he's unlocked, which makes me have hope for the fact that bro may still have a cursed technique yet to be revealed. As Sukuna says, there's this.
It's the same logic behind his effective attacks against the patch-face cursed spirit.
How sad is that, Mahito? Sukuna. The man you tried to touch doesn't even remember your name. But with that being the case,
It's the same logic behind his effective attacks against the patch-face cursed spirit. He can sense it. He's aiming directly for the barrier between my soul and Megumi Fushiguro's. He's rousing Fushiguro Megumi's soul that was submerged in the bath by disrupting the harmony between this body and myself.
so, primarily, this is just an evolution of an existing strat. An existing strat that Yuji and many others already would have had access to. As Sukuna admits, it's the same logic. So, reasonably, a character like, hypothetically, Kenjaku would be able to do this because of his dual-souled nature. Him possessing the body of another would be a two-souled thing. We know Geto's soul existed in Kenjaku's body, or when Kenjaku existed in Geto's body, Geto's soul still existed and could rebel. Same thing with likely all of Kenjaku's prerequisites. Same thing with any of the Culling Game incarnated players, whether it be Reggie, whether it be Ryu, whether it be Earl. They all likely had access to this basic technique. It's why I think Mahito not necessarily got power crept, but a little bit power crept because so many different natural predators were introduced to him because of how the soul attacking thing works. But essentially, what Yuji has done here is double down on it. Because remember, the main thing about Yuji's ability to damage Mahito is that it was entirely unconscious. Bro was just punching. He was Mr. Left, Right, Good Night, and as usual. But what ended up changing was the fact that he subconsciously knew how to perceive the contours of the soul and attack them automatically. Meanwhile, now he's actively attacking for them, which goes to show an evolution of his understanding and abilities, but not necessarily a new curse technique or anything like that. Like, I don't think he's unlocked curse technique, soul slapper. Like, I don't think that's a thing. I think he is still just evolving a basic technique, kind of just like punching better. Which, it's stupid, but it's pretty accurate to what he's doing. Which still lets me 100% believe that bro has some variation of blood manipulation in his kit. But with that being the case, that's the number one thing. That Yuji Todori can punch real good. Real better good than he could ever punch good before. But the second major realization is that Megumi is slowly but surely... Hey, wake up. He's slowly but surely waking up by Yuji's persistent attacks. Now, this is interesting because it does imply that Megumi's soul is rousable. You can shake it hard enough to wake it up. One thing I was 100% convinced on before this chapter was that Megumi was cooked. Like, what? 4 elevated voids? Sure, Sukuna may have taken the brunt of it for his direct brain and then healed it, but like 4 of them? That's a lot. That's a lot of unlimited voids, bucko. And I'm sorry, you're how much lost in the sauce? You just slaughtered your own sensei. Ooh, and your own older sister? Ah, that's rough, buddy. So like, I was really expecting him to be cooked, but at least by this, even Sukuna himself acknowledges the possibility that Fushiguro Megumi's soul can be woken up after all that he did to suppress it. From incarnation to the bath to everything, all that was done simply may not have been enough in order to stop Fushiguro Megumi's revival. Which is admittedly putting me more on the okay with Megumi's revival thing, even if I'm still like leaning towards no. I'd rather he just stay gone. But with that being the case, another thing that gets established here, which is very important.
Every time I take a blow from this brat, my cursed energy output falls, and my control of this body weakens. I'll just keep chipping away until I can no longer maintain Hollow Wicker Basket, which reveals the real risk. The desire to use Angel's technique, Jacob's Ladder, to eradicate the cursed object within Fushiguro Megumi.
So many things are said here. So many things are said here, and they all have drastic levels of importance. Number 1, every single punch Yuji lands nerfs Sukuna. Drastically, too. Cursed energy output is seemingly enough an overall thing. At least presumably based on what we talk about later in the chapter and the already previous discussion about it's not how much cursed energy you have, it's how well you can use it. So what does that mean in this case? It means that every single time that Yuji lands a hit, Sukuna's getting weaker. Bit by bit, piece by piece. He's getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and Megumi slowly but surely waking up. And all it takes is hits. Sukuna doesn't say it's anything fancy. It's just a blow. Meaning that Itadori can just keep... And he's going to start waking Megumi up, which is very, very good. And with the revelation that the control of Sukuna's body is weakening, it's actually very, very interesting. Because the question becomes, what would he turn into? Would he just go back into the innate domain and just chill there and then wait to be reawoken? Or something of that case? Because we see... Sukuna's worried about their true goal, using Jacob's ladder to eradicate the cursed objects within Megumi. But of course, that beckons the question, wait a minute, cursed object? But Megumi didn't eat any of the thing. He did. Megumi. Oh, Megumi. You ate that Yuji finger, bro. Admittedly, completely of your own, against your own will, but you ate the Yuji finger, you ate the four fingers, and then you ate that final, juicy, wonderful mummy head. which is still so crazy. But the reason this is so interesting to me is because it does imply that somewhere inside Megumi Fushiguro's body, somewhere inside this 8-foot titan, there is, like, fingers? And mummy pieces? Which is wild to think about. Especially since Megumi, I think he's like 5'9". Like, Megumi's small. Well, not small. 5'9" is actually above average height. The tall king right there. But still, I say this, like, as a guy who's 2 feet tall. So, like, I'm not one to judge. But with that being the case, very, very interesting. So, Sukuna is still bound to the cursed objects that were consumed after he consumed them. That seems like a pretty whack variation of the ability, but I can somewhat understand it if you need... That's still weird, though. That's still very, very weird, thinking about it. He's infused, he's incarnated, but he's still technically just a whole bunch of fingers in a mummy head. That's wild. But of course, we see that Yuji Todori lunges in. They have their nice little clash. And then Sukuna's like, I'm so sick and tired of you interfering in my games. Why don't you just fall? And he immediately goes to cleave Sukuna. No, he goes to cleave Yuji apart here, which is wild, but I do like it. I do like that he's finally... Because you literally see him just flip his hand around. Yuji gets his arm in an arm bar, and Sukuna's like, man, if you don't, and he just flips the hand about, grabs Yuji. Though, admittedly, this is very impressive that before, like, Yuji isn't able to dodge or react to anything like that. It's Yuta who comes in and commands Sukuna to not move in order to prevent Sukuna from just cleaving Itadori apart. Like, once again, you can literally see the line starting to form. W-mans, bro. W-man. Shouts to my boy Yuta. He cooking. And, of course, we see... that bro whipped out cursed speech, which is a very, very lucky draw. Because I don't know how he was supposed to stop that otherwise. Like, what, Thin Icebreaker aside or something? I have no idea how he's going to save Itadori's life here if he did not have cursed speech. Well, that being the case, we see him stick that freaky geeky little tongue out. Stick that freaky geeky little tongue out. Because, you know, he wants to get all up in Sukuna's lower belly mouth. In more ways than one, maybe. And we see that Sukuna's like... what does this kid not have? I swear I've run into every technique under the sun. And we see that, once again, Yuta says, nah, this is an old classic. And smacks Sukuna with another Thin Icebreaker. And the beauty of this one is the fact that it actually does not real damage per se, but this one actually knocks Sukuna back in comparison to the previous one, where he kind of just like, let's keep going. Like notably, it's a lot more serious or reaction and input, which makes me wonder, did he like put more force into that one? Was there a gigantic explosion? I don't know. But regardless, I ain't complaining. As he gets knocked back into Rika, who immediately goes for the... Once again, I love Rika in this chapter, despite Rika barely being a character, because she just stands on so much business. No questions asked, she just immediately gets to swinging. And we see that Sukuna, he's like, okay,
This is getting a little bit rough. I'm still having a good time. And Rika's like,
you're still having what? And boom, just 2 overhead sledgehammers him into the ground. Who taught her that? Who taught her that? Why was it so impressive? Like, look at that. They're both holding their hands together, except one of them's using a hollow wicker basket, and the other one's gonna put someone in a hollow wicker basket. And she just dunks, bro, straight down, tags him, and knocks him into oblivion. And look at my boys. Look at my 2 peak MCs. Look at them charging together like this. I love how both of them are taking different levels too. Like Yuji's taking the high ground, just booking it. Meanwhile, Yuta Kotsu, once again with that drawn katana, he's also booking it. I love it. And we see that Sukuna's like, I'm getting so sick and tired of this. Fine, you wanna have fun? Let's have some fun. And he just immediately sends him out. He throws them up. Now, this admittedly has caused me a little bit of confusion, but I'll take it as people have explained it. So at first I didn't get how he was able to use this mantle through the domain, because I thought, well, isn't the whole domain coated in heavenly light? No. Kind of just forgot how sure hits work. The reason he's able to still use techniques like dismantle here to, well, really slash apart our 2 MCs is because it's a sure hit. He's and I love that. I love how Sukuna is using that big old brain of his. He's exploiting the loophole. He knows they're using Jacob's ladder, but Jacob's ladder won't exist unless Hollow Wicker Basket is taken down. And while sure, maybe Jacob's ladder could identify the projectiles as they come along, like maybe it would pick up on the curse energy, it doesn't seem like Angel's technique is one that would attack an inorganic object, right? So like I think Sukuna being the organic object being completely blocked by Hollow Wicker Basket is fine, but everything else around him is what gets torn up. And we see this when Yuji and Yuta are like, oh shoot, we may have underestimated, and they immediately get sliced to ribbons as Rika goes in for another one. I give credit to Rika once again, just going in straight for it. Though, admittedly, just doesn't do too hot here. Like, it goes to show the power differential between the king and queen, at least the unmanifested queen and this heavily fatigued king, as her attack just gets blocked and she immediately gets kicked in the mouth before anything can happen. And then Sukuna just tears her arm apart. Like, the disrespect is crazy. And realize, Rika's very, very bulky, so the fact that this casual one-tap cleave did this much to her, very, very impressive, even if unmanifested. And once again, we see Sukuna holding that forearm pose. He's like, if I don't make direct contact, I won't leave a fatal wound. Just as it was with him. Although, I wouldn't say they surpass him in toughness. Got me pacing. Ryu Glaze. That's what I needed. That's exactly what I needed. I needed that. Oh, I feel it in my bone. I needed that. Oh, I didn't know how much I needed that until I got it. Oh, yes. Ryu Glaze. Now you may be wondering. Excuse me, Pencil Man. What is this glaze you're referring to? What is this Ryu Glaze in 2024 you're talking about? So, this goes back to a fundamental question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And to answer that question for you, the egg, as chickens evolved from reptiles. And reptiles were laying eggs far before they were birds, and the chicken is a type of bird. I forget, I need to fact check this if they're descended from Tyrannosaurus Rex, or if that's just like a common meme. Because, like all birds descend from dinosaurs. Especially like the entire avian faction of the modern day, with the exception of insects, originates from dinosaurs. But another fundamental question is, what does cursed energy amount actually do? We tackled this earlier a bit with Yuta Kotsu and Sukuna's cursed energy amount and how much that actually matters for him versus output. This statement right here, as Sukuna says it, essentially just hard confirms that in spite of having what should be some of the highest bulk in the verse, Yuta Ogotsu, let me address him correctly. Yuta Ogotsu, not as bulky as Ryu. He just isn't. That's what Sukuna immediately assumes. And this also confirms, it was always a question, it seems like 15 Finger Sukuna did need to use Cleave on Ryu. Cleave, what adapts to your durability versus Dismantle. That's what needs to be used. And needed to be used on Ryu, because Ryu's tougher than them. That's off of this assumption. And notably, here's the thing. Considering he uses... Then again, no. It's the... He's specifically referring... This is what the nightmare is. We can't necessarily use this for Rika. We kind of have to use this for Yuta and Yuji. Because he says, if I don't make direct contact, I won't leave a fatal wound, just as it was with him. So... He's talking about how he couldn't make direct contact. He clearly makes direct contact here with Rika, meaning that like this dual slashing he does here and the reference and statement he makes towards Ryu is specifically towards Ryu. But that's fine. Like we already know that Ryu should be bulkier than fully manifested Rika. But what this does is essentially it does confirm that Ryu, in terms of base to base stats, was stronger than Yuta. Like drastically stronger than Yuta. Like notably, this is a post-time skip Yuta, who he himself says, we cheated in order to become much stronger in the month time period. So, every single person who ever said that Ryu didn't scale to Yuta, I want you to argue with Sukuna. Go ahead. Do your work. Nah, but I'll take the statement. I'll definitely take the statement. Once again, that kind of just reaffirms my own idea that Ryu's always been top 10. You can make meme arguments now. Like, because here's the thing, right? If you go by Einstein's law, I know this sounds so great, but every action is the equal and opposite reaction, except for when we both start rapping. And you still think that Ryu, and which honestly wouldn't be too crazy to say, if you think that Ryu, since he's still more durable, and that durability comes from specifically how much output he has. And the only ways to bypass Ryu's durability is by using things that auto-adjust to durability, such as Cleave, and or maybe Soul Split Katana or something like that. And his output should be comparable to his durability, based on the fact that we see he's able to eat his own attacks as well as dish them out. You could once again just make the argument that Ryu is still stronger than Yuta in terms of stats. Don't get me wrong. Hear me when I say this. Yuta fans. Please do not slaughter me. I'm one of y'all. Even if I believe Ryu has better stats than Yuta, I don't think he wins. I don't think so. I just generally don't. We see how the fight went. And sure, there are definitely external factors that get in the way of that, and rematches would be weird. But this domain alone, with the infinite katanas, plus he literally has the hard matchup counter for Ryu and relative speed to him. So, like, it don't really matter. Yuta still wins. But in terms of who has better stats, I'd say durability and output-wise, it still is Ryu. Ryu is the strongest in terms of just raw output. Well, not the strongest. Like, presumably Gojo and Sukuna still have higher output. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe. But the not surpassing him in toughness, at least in my opinion, that puts Ryu above even a post-time skip Yuta. Which is very, very good. It means Ryu one-shots Kenny. Just like Yuta does. Good stuff. I like that. But once again, tell me if I'm interpreting that wrong. And who knows, maybe every action is an equal and opposite reaction thing isn't valid when it comes to Ryu. Maybe his durability is way higher than his AP, even though I don't think so. I think it is literally just the same. I think bro is just the strongest. Not the strongest overall, but in terms of just sheer raw stats and numbers and bulk, and by proxy output, just in generic output, I think bro punches the hardest. I think bro can take the most. I think bro's just him. But that's just me. However, with it being the case, we see that now here's the thing. This is an interesting clarification. This is interesting, and this is a little bit weird and iffy, but not all too crazy based on what's been mentioned before. Y'all listen in.
It's not just because of my diminished cursed energy output from the fight with Gojo Satoru either. All the sorcerers that have shown up from Jutsu High have extremely tight defenses. And then there's this brat with reverse curse technique, not to mention the domain itself. Its sure hit effect is narrow to apply only to myself and only me. Was he capable of this from the beginning? Something like this requires a very sophisticated barrier technique. So what have you all been up to this past month?
Hard work and determined. We cheated. Oh. I love that. I love that interaction. Honestly, favorite Yuta moment right there. But with that being the case, this is interesting as well. So, the buff only seems to be defensive. Seemingly, at least by this statement. It implies that everyone's attack potency may have been the same. But once again, it goes back to that everything has an equal and opposite reaction, except for when we both start rapping. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's an overall buff. But it's interesting that Sukuna implies it's only their defenses that have gotten better. They have extremely tight defenses. Not speed, not output, not anything. It's only their defenses that have gotten better. He doesn't say Yuji's gotten any stronger or Yuta's gotten any stronger. But then again, he has very limited interactions with Yuta. So I understand why he doesn't mention that. But that's interesting. To say it's only defensive. I mean, I guess it isn't too crazy because cursed energy reinforcement. But then again, he said in 246, I believe, their cursed energy reinforcement in general has drastically improved their technique with that. So I don't know. That one's interesting. That one's very, I'm not sure how to take that one. But the fact that he specifically exemplifies their defenses have gotten better, but they're still not as good as Ryu's defenses. Interesting. Once again, it puts Ryu at top, which I appreciate, but very, very interesting on the rest. I wonder what that means. Do you guys, this is a question for y'all if you made it this late into the video, because I know I've been yapping for a minute now. But do you think it's a direct correlation? Do you think that because their defenses have gotten better, their AP has gotten better as well as a byproduct, and their speed and stuff like that? Or do you think the only thing that got better was their defensive ability, and essentially they're the same stat-wise as they were pre-time skip overall? Like their speed is the same, their attack potency is the same, all the stuff like that. Because if it's the former, then everyone's just blatantly stronger, and that's fine. But if it's the latter, certain matchups still go in certain ways that they do before, which may or may not have been changed by the time skip. If the former is true, if you go with the latter. So it's very interesting. Tell me what you guys think. Personally, I'm leaning towards the camp that it's an overall buff. He just highlights defensives here because he's specifically attacking them. And like Ryu being the example, once again, if I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, oh, well, since Ryu has super duper high defenses, his output is also the highest. I'm going to assume it's the same thing here. Their defenses got better, their output got better. Their speed got better. Their stats are overall better. But hey, Sukuna himself, I can't argue with Sukuna, right? He just mentions defenses. Very, very interesting. But with that being the case, a lot of people are getting on my case for glazing Yuta here. And excuse me, my apologies. I sincerely apologize for me continuing to glaze, because I'm going to glaze him. People did bring up the fact that Dagon was able to reallocate his sure hit effect. And that is true. I will give credit to that. Dagon was able to do that. But I don't think he had, well, then again, did he put it, I think he thought he executed Maki, so he may have turned off his sure hit on Maki. So I guess technically that does count as excluding somebody. So yes, Dagon does perform this feat as well. Hooray. But notably, this is the first time we've seen Yuta do something like this in combat. Meanwhile, Dagon had been using his domain in a non-shirt fashion for months, I'm pretty sure. Based on the fact that Dagon was the Horizon the Captivating Skanda was the hiding place for the Disaster Curses and Kenny for the longest time before Shibuya ended up happening. So Dagon had a lot of practice. I still think it's very impressive that Yuta is able to do exactly what he does, because he's not just, remember, he's not just allocating effects of his sure hit. He's allocating 100% of that towards one person while excluding two other people who should easily fit in the criteria. Because one of them kind of is Sukuna, in the sense that Yuji's been confirmed to just basically be a cursed finger of Sukuna. But also, Rika is a cursed spirit, and Jacob's Ladder very specifically targets cursed spirits. So I do think it's still very, very impressive. Heck, even Sukuna thinks it's impressive. Like, this isn't just me glazing for glazing's sake. Sukuna himself is like, this requires a very sophisticated barrier technique. So sure, has it been done before? Yes, by Dagon, who's had months of experience practicing with his domain. I still think it's impressive. Is it as impressive as I glazed it up to be? I'd still say so. I still think this is a better feat than Gojo ever performed in terms of domain. Like, I think the ability to select targets as well as he did is something that, I think it's Dagon Mahito that one time when he excluded Yuji, but then again, no, he specifically excluded Yuji from the domain. He didn't include Yuji and just ignore his soul touch, and Mahito never figured out how to do that. Just like Gojo never figured out how to exclude people from his domain. So I still think it probably goes Sukuna at 1, Sukuna at 1, Kenny at 2 in terms of domain proficiency, and then maybe 3 and 4th place tie between Yuta and Dagon, just because of how sophisticated this barrier technique is. And of course, I do love how Sukuna, even in spite of the fact that he's in extreme danger right now, even in spite of the fact that bro's losing control over the body he's worked so hard for, even in spite of all that, bro's still like, I like the cut of your jib. What y'all been doing? He puts respect on their names. Like, he still 100% puts respect on, like, y'all a little bit there. What y'all been cooking? Like, he genuinely asks out of seemingly sincere interest. Like, look at that smile. One of my favorite panels of Sukuna ever, I think. And that smile, like you ever. It doesn't have to be an uncle. It doesn't have to be an aunt. But you ever just gotten like a proud smile from someone decently enough older than you, to the point where it's like it almost warms your heart, like you made somebody proud and they hit you with that wow, I'm really impressed with you. I do like that. I like how he hits that smile in particular, and I do love just the reaction here. Interesting. I wonder does he like did he like slash Yuta's eyes? Is this why it turns red here? Like, he has the same effect later in this chapter. So I wonder, is this just a thing that happens? Maybe it's because of the eye slash that it turns red like this, but it's very interesting. This happens twice, but I never necessarily noticed it. But Yuta has his eye turn red here. Though this, of course, has interesting implications, and I'll just straight up admit it. I don't know who started it. I'm going to steal it. A lot of people in the previous comment section, the spoiler discussion, and other videos of mine have mentioned it. A lot of people are assuming they use Mio, which, if so, I do like. Because if you remember what Mio does, here's the thing about Mio, and the reason I'm a little bit hesitant to go with that, is because his time dilation thing only mattered in the colonies, because the culling games had specific barriers that were all neutralized. Then again, I guess maybe you can still, because the weird thing about Mio is the time dilation thing, because it would imply that time in the culling games moves much slower than it does in real time. But Mio's like the only hyperbolic time chamber we really have, right? So like, I think it would have to be Mio. And if so, if they just spam Mio and everyone just spent like years upon years wrestling with Mio, I'll take it. Because other than that, the only other way I could think of them cheating, quote unquote, is binding vows. Lots of binding vows, but I'm not sure how much of a binding vow they all could have instigated in order to get such a massive defense boost. So I'll go with the idea that Mio helped them in his little hyperbolic time chamber. It's a neat idea. I'll take it. I'm gonna appropriate that real quick. Let me cop that. Beautiful. It's mine now. But I'm kidding. Shout out to the person who came up with that. However, with it being the case, once again, I love not just how Sukuna is recognizing it, but even Yuta and Yuji do. If it weren't for the after effects of his battle with Gojo-sensei, he wouldn't have a second to spare to use our reverse curse techniques. He would have annihilated us in an instant. It pains me to admit it, but Riken's the strongest sorcerer right now. I don't even want to think about what would happen if we can't stop him here. Neither do I, but I kind of do. Merger versus Sukuna? Please? But with that being the case, I do love, and I mean, it's kind of like a love-hate thing, but I do love how Gege is still keeping up that gap, keeping up that divide, reinforcing that narrative. Gege's like, hey, just because he's gone, just because he's been gone for, at this point, a solid 14 chapters, don't forget, no one here is on the level of Gojo. And by proxy, no one here is on the level of true full power Sukuna. Not a single soul. Because what does Yuta, second to Satoru Gojo in unusual abilities, declare in his head, meaning he has no reason to be lying, in his head, he believes that if it were proper Sukuna, if there were no after effects, he would have annihilated them in an instant. They would have been Kashi mode. That's what he says here. Which, of course, makes Kashimo, who had after effects from the battle with Sukuna, a bit more embarrassing. But still, they would have been waffled if Sukuna was not heavily fatigued, brain damaged, had cursed energy output lowered, RCT output lowered. They simply would not be able to recover, as they would have been annihilated in an instant. Which is good. I'm in the camp that I think making the gap between Gojo and the rest is something of a mistake, because the whole narrative of Gojo being surpassed by his students kind of relies on the idea that they could surpass him, but it seems like his stats were just way too good, and his abilities were way too good, and he overall just had like 99 stat caps everywhere, so I'm not sure how they're supposed to surpass him, but I do like that we're getting quantifications and reinforcements of the idea that no. Gojo Satoru was the strongest. He will be the strongest of the modern day, and it's going to stick like that for a while. These kids are not suddenly reaching his level, essentially. And that was a big thing that a lot of people were worried about. Oh, well, now that Gojo's gone, he's going to have to immediately get power crept. He's going to have to get jumped. He's not going to be, a lot of people were saying it, he's not going to be top 5 by the end of the series and stuff like that. Nah. Unless we get a jump forward and we get some statements. I think if the second strongest after Gojo, at this point, I'd say it's nigh on inarguable to argue that Yuta isn't the strongest, third strongest. I feel like there's very few, like, the only argument you can make in a roundabout way isn't even an argument based on who's stronger, it's a matchup check. And it's from the 2 matchup check characters in the verse. If you don't think characters have gotten any faster, and you think all Sukunas are uniform, then maybe you can argue Maki and Toji with their scaling could maybe come in and put in some work, right? Maybe you could argue that. And sheer matchups and stuff like that, and to be able to like neutralize or ignore a lot of what Yuta has to offer by going invisible in his domain, or just Duraneg Soul Split Katana destroying everything Yuta has to offer. But even then, that's questionable, just because Maki's speed feats are kind of nebulous at this point. And even with Curse no Oya presumably being the fastest character in the verse overall, and Maki's ability to react to him, the question of how much that scales to Sukuna and vice versa is very, very iffy. Once again, I need to wait. I'm waiting to see Maki do something, admittedly, against Sukuna, get some speed feats and some relativity before I start declaring anything. But I think it's pretty easy to argue Yuta's third strongest, and even he's like, nah, bro. I'd be instantly one tap by Sukuna, which Gojo was too, but that was with Spatial Slash after a long, extensive battle where he was caught off guard, presumably, hopefully. I hope he wasn't looking at it and just decided to face tank it. But with that being the case, I do like that Yuta and Yuji do give respect to their sensei, and they do give respect to the gravitas of the situation. They lose, it's over. It's over. To the point where Yuji doesn't even want to think about it. He's like, we win now, or else. I like that. And we do get to see that Rika, once again, no thoughts, head empty, lunges straight in for it, goes in to start cooking. And I love this trio here. Once again, Sukuna being forced to use all aspects of himself. And notably, Sukuna gets weaker every single time Yuji hits him. By how much? Unquantifiable, but he does get weaker. Once again, proving that no one scales the full power Sukuna. Not even Gojo, most likely. But with that being the case, Rika comes in, punches Sukuna's arm, blocks. Yuji comes in, forces Sukuna, block. 2 arms still being used to hold Hollow Wicker Basket. And Yuta Okotsu comes out the clutch, comes out the woodwork, grabs a katana, and lunges in. Once again, Sukuna's 4-armed anatomy being used and taken up advantage of by the fact that he basically has 2-armed anatomy right now. And Yuta comes in and stabs Sukuna with the blade. And as Yuta notices, the ink is already dry. And Sukuna goes to swing, but he gets weaved preemptively and gets smacked dead in the face. Mad disrespectful. And I love how Sukuna, once again, just due to his extreme experience, he's like, what the? Was that clairvoyance? Like, bro immediately recognizes it, which is a testament to how much knowledge he has. Like, how do you, like, why is that your first thought? Like, bro didn't just read you. No, that had to be clairvoyance. I guess because it's a curse technique that hits him and he notices that, but that's still crazy to me. But he does it, and Yuta immediately weaves him. And this does go to show that Charles did show up eventually. We don't see him in any of the flashbacks, and it seems like he's watching on an iPad, not in the big TV room everyone was watching. But that is nice. That is nice that Charles showed up and did end up helping out, sliding his technique over. Makes me wonder who else is around that we just haven't seen yet. Gege, you hiding anybody else you want to show us? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Show us. But of course, we do get to see Yuji Chidori goes for the meanest dap up this side of the Mississippi. Psych, he actually tries to Kamehameha Sukuna. And still, once again, Rika just floating on absolute business. I love how she just straight, like, basically dunks it like a basketball. Just hard clocks Sukuna straight over the dome piece. It's so stupidly disrespectful that I love it. It's the same thing she did to Ryu too, while fully manifested, but seeing it on Sukuna somehow is even more disrespectful. She's really like, this is for my arm! Boom! Smacks him straight on. As Yuji two-hand palm strikes Sukuna, and Yuta comes in with a new katana. And we see Sukuna, he's starting to take inventory, right? Because he's like, okay, this is actually getting kind of dumb. Let me think about this. Number 1, the Angel's Jacob's Ladder. Number 2, a space manipulation technique. Number 3, a technique that creates an invulnerable barrier on the path of a Shigami. Number 4, cursed speech. Number 5, clairvoyance. And the limitless? No, he shouldn't be able to control it without the 6 eyes. Has he played all his cards? So, limitless, 6 eyes, is it necessary? No. At least I don't think so. We know you can be born without the limitless, but have the 6 eyes, and vice versa. We know you can have the 6 eyes and be born without the limitless. So, Yuta should be able to have it. The interesting note is, though, control. Sukuna doesn't say he shouldn't be able to use it. He says he shouldn't be able to control it without the 6 eyes, which means that Yuta could possibly smack Sukuna with a blue, but he wouldn't be able to control the output of the blue, which could be dangerous. Could be dangerous in a team fight scenario. So I understand why Yuta may not go for it and goes for something a lot safer and more simple. Though I do think we do need to see a little bit of blue, a little infinity here or there. Especially since Sukuna, at least he hasn't told this to them, but he can't use World Slash right now. So if Yuta gets that passive infinity going, they'll presumably have to take a whole bunch of energy, which probably wouldn't be wise right now. However, we do get to see that Yuta, as he thinks, even Sukuna will be caught off guard by a technique he hasn't seen used, which means that will surely. And he's lucky enough that RNG, he manages to grab a katana. And I do think, I meant to mention this in the domain explanation at the start of the video, I do think the reason that Yuta Kotsu has the random sword effect is to make sure they're infinite. I feel like if he knew what every single sword was at the start, then they wouldn't be infinite. Maybe like a binding vow instituted in the domain for the gambling effect. So you get to have infinite katanas or some other perk and benefit. Maybe the infinite katanas plus the sure hit. That was a trade-off that you'd have made when forming the domain. Because otherwise, why would you make them random if you could have made them orderly? But of course, we see he grabs the right one and he lunges in. Notably, I do love this. I didn't notice this originally, but he's dual wielding right here. He swings the blade that was existing in his right hand, performing sky manipulation, dragging and creating a cover field. I just realized this. I didn't even notice. Sukuna does not let Yuji hit a hip slide. Rika gets away with it. Rika does not need a follow-up, apparently. But Yuji immediately gets... Sukuna just clocks him straight in the gut and sends him flying. Got Yuji spitting up some juice. But I love this detail. Yuta, with his right, drags space, tugging Sukuna in nice and close. Then he pierces that same space with the other katana. And Sukuna's like, oh, what is it this time? Another thin icebreaker. Boy, you're boring me. And we see that as he pierces, and not only this is impressive, Sukuna grabs on with 2 hands, that extra durable defense. Yuta goes, cleave, and tears into Sukuna with his own fangs, as the chapter itself declares. Bitten by his own fangs, this is my... Sukuna's curse technique is added to the kit. Still super duper crazy to me. Fantastic though, fantastic. I love this chapter. I really, really do. I mentioned this in the short review. Not too much character-wise happens this chapter, but the major plot progressions and the clarification of abilities and the addition and explanation of Yuji's domain, fantastic. The fighting itself, the choreography between the greatest jumping this side of the Mississippi, from the football tosses to the utilization of Sukuna's entire body type, to the cleaves, to the curse speech, to everything, fantastic, beautiful. This chapter is amazing. Easily a 10 out of 10 chapter for me. I love it. I'm super excited to see 251. I'm assuming we kind of have to cut away. I'm wondering how far we're going to get before we cut away. A lot of people are afraid for Yuta. They're thinking he's going to perish on Valentine's Day. A lot of people are afraid he's going to perish on Valentine's Day. I can kind of see the vision. I don't want to see the vision, though. So we're going to huff copium and pretend that that's not going to happen. But with that being the case, if you somehow made it to the end of this chunker of a video, please leave thin cleave speech. It's a weird combination, but pre-curse techniques. Thin cleave speech in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as one a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include a 31-minute live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and depending on what kind of tier you become, you can even order a video yourself. For $25 a month, whether as a patron or a member, you can order one video of any length for me. Anything you ask, I shall do. But regardless, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Nago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Atkins Void. I'd like to give another big thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Gemlord, Metal Solid Crisis, Kevin, Igneal, and Demix LND. Another scrumptious thank you to our $7 members, Autumn, Mornings, Lazo, and Sick Addiction. And I'd like to give another hefty thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And I'd like to give a thank you, an amazing thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder. And another thank you to our next $25 patron, eHack1. And a final thank you to our final $25 patron, Stira.